You said you would never be that parent, the one who yells. You promised yourself before your child was even born. I will be calm. I will be patient. I will be the parent I always wished I had. And then one Tuesday afternoon, your 4-year-old throws their plate on the floor for the third time, and something inside you just snaps. And the voice that comes out of your mouth does not even sound like you. It is louder than you meant, harsher than you wanted. And the moment you see your child's face, that small, shocked, frightened face, you feel it. That wave of guilt that every parent knows. The one that says, I am doing this wrong. You are not doing this wrong. But here is what nobody tells you. Yelling is not a character flaw. It is not proof that you are a bad parent. It is proof that you were never given the right tools, that you were taught to parent reactively, to respond to behavior after it happens, rather than to prevent it from ever reaching that point. And Korean mothers figured out a completely different approach, not stricter, not more permissive, something entirely different that Western parenting culture has almost completely missed. By the end of this video, you will have 3 specific Korean parenting tools that will change the way your child behaves and change the way you feel at the end of every single day. Starting tonight. Stay with me. Before we talk about what Korean mothers do, we need to talk honestly about what yelling actually does to a child's brain. Not to make you feel guilty. You already feel guilty enough. But because understanding the real neurological impact is the only thing that will make you genuinely motivated to try something different. When you yell at a child, their brain does something very specific and very immediate. The amygdala, the brain's fear and alarm center, activates instantly. It floods the child's body with cortisol and adrenaline, fight or flight chemicals, the same chemicals that fire when a predator appears. And here is the critical part that most parents do not know. The moment those stress chemicals flood the brain, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for learning, reasoning, and behavioral change, goes almost completely offline, which means every single lesson you are trying to teach while yelling is going directly into a brain that is neurologically incapable of receiving it. The child is not learning to behave better. They are learning to be afraid. And a child who behaves out of fear does not develop self-discipline. They develop anxiety. They develop hypervigilance. They develop a nervous system that is permanently tuned to threat, scanning every room they walk into for signs of danger. Korean parenting understood this not from neuroscience studies, but from generations of cultural observation. They watched what happened to children raised in reactive households, and they built an entirely different system, one that works with the child's brain rather than against it. In Korean culture, there is a foundational parenting belief that shapes everything, from the way Korean mothers speak to their children to the way they structure an entire day. It is called innesim. Innesim loosely translates to patient endurance, but not the gritted-teeth, white-knuckled endurance of someone trying desperately not to yell. It is something much deeper and much more powerful than that. It is the cultivated inner stillness of a parent who has genuinely internalized a different understanding of what a child's difficult behavior actually means. In Korean culture, a child's difficult behavior is not seen as defiance. It is not seen as disrespect. It is not seen as a personal challenge to the parent's authority. It is seen as communication. Every tantrum, every refusal, every boundary push is understood as a child's underdeveloped attempt to communicate something they do not yet have the words or the neurological capacity to express. And the parent's role, the innesim role, is not to shut down that communication with punishment or volume. It is to decode it, and then to teach, not react, teach. This single philosophical shift, from behavior is defiance to behavior is communication, is the foundation of everything Korean parenting does differently. And once you make that shift yourself, you will never see your child's difficult moments the same way again. Now let us look at exactly how Korean mothers translate this philosophy into 3 specific daily practices. Before I share these 3 tools, I want you to notice something about all of them. None of them are about controlling your child. All of them are about connecting with your child first and letting the calm behavior grow naturally from that connection. This is the core difference between Western discipline and Korean parenting. Western discipline tries to control behavior from the outside in. Korean parenting grows behavior from the inside out. Tool 1. Gibbon matching. The emotional mirror that stops meltdowns before they start. The first tool Korean mothers use is called gibbon matching. Gibbon, which we explored briefly in our first video, means emotional state or emotional atmosphere. And matching means doing exactly what it sounds like. Before a Korean mother addresses any behavior, any tantrum, any refusal, any outburst, she matches her child's emotional state first. Not with equal volume, not with equal intensity, but with equal acknowledgement. Here's what this looks like in practice. Your child is screaming because you told them it is time to leave the playground. In the Western reactive approach, you say, "Stop crying. We have to go. You knew this was coming. You are embarrassing me." And the crying gets louder because the child does not feel heard. And a child who does not feel heard will always communicate louder. A Korean mother does something completely different. She crouches down, she looks her child in the eyes, and before she says a single word about leaving, she says something like this: "You really did not want to stop playing. You were having so much fun, and now you have to leave, and that feels really unfair. I understand that. That is really hard." And something shifts. Not immediately in every child, every time, but consistently enough that Korean mothers report it as their single most reliable tool. Because what happened in the child's brain when those words arrived is extraordinary. The amygdala, the alarm center that was firing the tantrum, received a signal, not a threat, not a command, a signal of understanding. And understanding deactivates the alarm. The prefrontal cortex comes back online, and now, only now, the child is neurologically capable of hearing what comes next. Now you tell them it is time to leave, and they go. Not perfectly, not silently, but calmly enough, because they felt understood first. Research from the University of Washington's Parenting Lab found that children whose parents consistently practice emotional acknowledgement before instruction show 40% fewer behavioral incidents within 6 weeks. 40%. Without punishment, without yelling, just acknowledgement first. Korean mothers call this being the emotional mirror. Your child needs to see their own feelings reflected back accurately before they can move past them. When you rush past the feeling to the instruction, you are asking your child's brain to do something it is neurologically not yet capable of. Regulate emotion while simultaneously processing a new command. Gibbon matching removes that neurological impossibility. It regulates the emotion first. Then the instruction lands in a brain that can actually receive it. Here is your practical starting point. The next time your child melts down, resist the instinct to fix or command immediately. Instead, say 3 words. And only 3 words at first. I see you. That is it. I see you. Then wait 5 seconds. Those 5 seconds of being seen will do more to calm your child than 10 minutes of reasoning ever could. Tool 2, yay-bang parenting. The approach that prevents the fire instead of fighting it. The second Korean parenting tool is perhaps the most powerful of all 3 and the most invisible. It is called yay-bang parenting. Yay-bang means prevention, and Korean mothers are absolute masters of it. In Western parenting culture, we are almost entirely reactive. We wait for the bad behavior to happen, and then we respond to it. We warn, we count, we punish, we take things away. We send to rooms, and then tomorrow, the same behavior happens again, and we do the same thing again. The cycle never ends because we are perpetually treating the symptom rather than preventing the cause. Korean mothers think about parenting the way a skilled architect thinks about a building. They design the environment and the daily structure so that difficult behavior has almost nowhere to grow. They ask themselves a question that most Western parents never think to ask. Not, how do I respond when my child misbehaves? But, what conditions in my child's environment or daily routine are making this behavior almost inevitable? And then they change the conditions. Here is a specific example. Most toddler meltdowns happen in one of 3 predictable windows: when the child is hungry, when the child is overstimulated, or when the child is transitioning between activities without warning. Korean mothers know this. So they structure the day to prevent all 3. They feed before the hunger window, not after it. They build quiet decompression time into the day after any high stimulation activity. And they give transition warnings. Not 1 warning, but 3. 10 minutes before a change, 5 minutes before a change, 1 minute before a change. So the child's brain has time to prepare, and the transition does not feel like an ambush. Neuroscience calls this reducing cognitive load. When a child's brain knows what is coming next, it does not have to spend energy on uncertainty. And a brain that is not spending energy managing uncertainty has significantly more capacity for emotional regulation. Korean mothers also practice something called the calm environment rule. Before any important interaction with a child, before asking them to do something, before setting a limit, before having any meaningful conversation, they check three things. Is the environment too loud? Is the environment too visually busy? Is the child in a position of physical discomfort? If any of those three things are true, they adjust the environment before making any request, because a child cannot regulate their emotions in an environment that is itself dysregulating. This sounds simple. It is actually revolutionary. Because it completely shifts the locus of responsibility from the child, why can't you just behave? To the parent, what conditions am I creating that are making good behavior harder than it needs to be? Your practical, yebang starting point for tonight. Identify the one time of day when your child is most difficult. Most parents know exactly when it is. Before dinner, after school, during transitions. Just one time. Then ask yourself, what is happening environmentally and physiologically in my child at that exact moment? And change one thing. Just one. A snack earlier. A quieter room. A 5-minute warning. Change one condition and watch what happens to the behavior. Prevention is not passive. It is the most active and intelligent form of parenting there is. Tool 3. Calm modeling. The tool that works while you sleep. The third Korean parenting tool is the one that requires the least effort and produces the most long-term results. It is called calm modeling. And it is exactly what it sounds like. Korean mothers are extraordinarily conscious about how they manage their own emotions in front of their children. Not because they never feel frustration, they absolutely do, but because they understand something that Western parenting culture rarely discusses. Your child's nervous system is literally learning how to handle emotion by watching yours. Every time you lose your temper, your child's brain records. This is what we do when things are hard. Every time you take a breath and respond calmly, your child's brain records. This is what we do when things are hard. Children do not learn emotional regulation from being told to calm down. They learn it from watching a calm person navigate difficulty. Korean mothers practice what they call the 3-breath rule. Whenever they feel the rising heat of frustration, the moment just before the yell, they take 3 slow, deliberate, visible breaths. Not hidden, not subtle, visible. Where the child can see them. Why visible? Because they want the child to see the process. They want the child's brain to record. When my mother feels frustrated, she stops and breathes. When I feel frustrated, I can stop and breathe. They are not just regulating themselves. They are teaching regulation in real time. And here is the neuroscience that makes this extraordinary. Research from the Max Planck Institute found that children between the ages of 2 and 7 are in what researchers call the imitation window, a developmental period during which the brain is specifically primed to copy the emotional regulation strategies of primary caregivers. During this window, watching a calm parent navigate frustration is literally neurological programming. It builds actual neural pathways in the child's brain for emotional self-regulation. Korean mothers have always understood this intuitively. They say, a calm mother grows a calm child. Not through rules, not through punishment, but through the daily lived example of what calm looks like under pressure. There is a beautiful Korean concept called ontol, meaning today's example becomes tomorrow's character. What your child sees you do today with your frustration will become a built-in part of how they handle their own frustration years from now. The stakes of your own emotional modeling are higher than any punishment system you could ever implement. Your practical starting point. The 3-breath rule. Tonight, when you feel the frustration rising, before you respond, before you speak, before you react, take 3 slow breaths. Make them visible. Let your child see you choose calm. Do this once, just once tonight, and notice what your child's face does when they watch you choose calm instead of chaos. Now, let us look at why these 3 tools work as a complete system rather than 3 separate techniques. Gibbon matching addresses the emotional layer, meeting the child where they are so their brain can receive what comes next. Yibang parenting addresses the environmental layer, removing the conditions that make difficult behavior almost inevitable. Calm modeling addresses the developmental layer, programming the child's nervous system over time with the example of what emotional regulation actually looks like. Together, they cover every dimension of a child's behavioral experience: the emotional, the environmental, and the developmental. You are not just managing behavior in the moment. You are building the neural architecture for lifelong emotional intelligence. This is why Korean children consistently demonstrate higher emotional regulation, lower anxiety, and stronger self-discipline than their Western counterparts in cross-cultural developmental studies. Not because they are genetically different, not because Korean parents are naturally more patient, but because the system they use addresses the whole child rather than just the surface behavior. Here is what your daily life looks like 3 weeks after you begin consistently using these 3 tools. It is 5:30 p.m., the witching hour, the time when your child has always been most difficult. Dinner is not ready. Your child is tired from a full day. In the past, this moment reliably ended in yelling. But tonight, something is different. Because of Yebang parenting, you gave your child a small snack at 5 p.m., before the hunger hit. You turned off the television 20 minutes ago, before the overstimulation peaked. You gave 3 transition warnings before asking them to come to the table. And when your child still pushes back, because children are children, and they will always test, you use Gieben matching. You crouch down. You are really tired tonight, and you did not want to stop what you were doing. I hear that. 5 seconds of being heard, and then, it is time to come to the table now. And they come. Not perfectly, not silently, but they come without the explosion, without the escalation, without the yelling that used to leave both of you feeling broken at the end of the day. And as you sit at the table together, you take a visible breath. Not because you needed it tonight, but because you are calm modeling. And your child notices. And somewhere in your child's developing brain, a neural pathway quietly strengthens. A pathway that says, when things are hard, we breathe. When things are hard, we stay calm. When things are hard, we are safe. That pathway did not exist 3 weeks ago. You built it, not through punishment, not through yelling, through connection, prevention, and daily example. Korean mothers call this mayam gyurigi, drawing the heart. The idea that patient, consistent parenting does not control a child's behavior. It draws their heart toward good behavior from the inside, and a child whose heart has been drawn toward calm will carry that calm for the rest of their life. Before we close, I want to address something directly, because I know what some of you are thinking right now. This sounds beautiful. But what about those days when I have nothing left? When I'm exhausted and overwhelmed and the tools feel completely out of reach? Korean mothers have a saying for this moment, Iyama do saramiya. It means, mother is also a person. The yelling cycle perpetuates itself through guilt. You yell, you feel guilty. The guilt depletes you further. Depletion makes yelling more likely. You yell again. The cycle continues. Korean parenting breaks the cycle not by demanding perfection, but by replacing guilt with repair. When a Korean mother loses her calm, and they do, they are human. She does not collapse into guilt. She repairs. She returns to the child when she is calm. She says, I got very frustrated earlier and I raised my voice. That was not fair to you. I am sorry. I love you. And that repair, done consistently, teaches the child something almost more valuable than the calm itself. It teaches them that relationships survive rupture, that love is not conditional on perfect behavior from either direction, that when we get it wrong, we come back and we fix it. 3 words, 3 tools, 1 philosophy. Your child is not giving you a hard time. They are having a hard time. And they need you, imperfect, trying, learning you, to show them the way through. Gieben matching, Yebang parenting, calm modeling. 3 tools, 1 philosophy. Built by Korean mothers across generations. Validated by developmental neuroscience. And available to you starting with bedtime tonight. You do not need to be a perfect parent. You need to be a present one, a learning one, a trying one, and that is already exactly what you are, because you watched this video to the end. If this gave you something real tonight, something you can actually use, share it with another parent who is in the middle of the yelling cycle right now. Because somewhere right now, there is a parent who needs to hear that there is a different way. And if you want to learn more about how Korean culture grows emotionally intelligent, self-disciplined, deeply connected children, subscribe to Korean Mom Way. Every single week, we bring you the wisdom Korean mothers have carried for generations. And we give it to you in a way you can use tonight. Not next month, tonight. You have got this.